going here, Gina.
Yes.
I see that.
Yeah. And we get a backup video on YouTube too as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way to do it.
yeah.
That's similar to how we do it at the school district. Same way.
See that.
All right. We are now, and we get a backup video on YouTube too. as well.
Yeah.
Okay, now,
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way to do it.
yeah, now
Let
we're
them in-
listening to
bring in
ourselves
echo.
there. Oh, let's see.
Hold on. Richard, can you okay?
Yeah. Now I'm
Gina,
back.
can you hear me okay?
I
Yes.
can't, but I heard myself echoing for a minute.
Well, that
I
was
do.
because we're on live on Facebook and you were hearing the recording of because there's a delay.
Okay, got it.
Oh, okay. Got it.
All
Okay.
right. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready to go. Let's start.
Okay. So I'm admitting everybody now.
Okay.
All right. It'll take a little while for them to log in and get on.
Woohoo. Welcome, family.
There you go.
Hello. Let the people come in. Hello, everyone. Hi, Sarah. Hi,
Hi.
George.
Hi everyone, how are you?
Hey.
If you can show your camera, if you'd like, we'd love to see your lovely faces just so we can have some connection. Yeah, there we go. Hi, Paul. How are you? Wonderful. The connection is wonderful. Samuel, okay, now that's the face I wanted to see. Angelica.
Video, okay? But I'll be back on.
Okay, yeah, mute your microphone. Okay. Well, we're letting lots more people are pouring in, but we want to get ourselves going today on the show. So we're going to get started here. Okay, so welcome everyone. I know you guys know me. I'm Dom, and I'm going to be moderating and hosting this episode of Truth and Democracy, Education and Democracy, and the Struggle for the Hearts of Our Youth. So we're so very excited to be here. First, to kick things off, we really want to allow anyone who wants to just say hello and send some out there on the show. This show is being recorded on YouTube Live, and so be sure to give your greatest love to the world. So does anyone just want to say hello to everyone before we get going here? Hi, Dixie. Dixie, do you want to say a few words? Go ahead.
I was just waving. But,
Oh, okay.
I'm glad to be here and glad you're hosting, Dom. So it should be good.
Yes, I'm glad for this too. Thank you, Dixie, so much. Appreciate that. Anyone else want to say hello and say a few words of why you're happy to be here together? This is a community, and sometimes we can get shy about sharing our thoughts and feelings, but you guys know we get to be open and real. So anyone else?
I want to say hi, Mom. Hi, Mom.
Hi,
Thank you
I'm
for
from
coming.
Santa Maria, California, and I look for, and it's now I get to see Rich's face. I usually don't get to. I'm very happy to be here today.
Yay, I love the love. So, Sarah, what city are you in California again? Say that one more time.
Santa Maria. I'm also on Chumash land.
Oh, okay now, girl. There you go. So you are really here for the cause, huh, Sarah? Wonderful, wonderful. Anyone else want to say a few words? Say hello to anyone? Anyone want to shout out there?
Me.
Hi everyone, my name is Angelica and I'm here in Granada Hills, California.
Great. Awesome. Granada Hills in the house. There you go.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Woo! Very nice. Anyone else out there want to say hello to us? Going once or twice? Okay. All right, well, we're going to get going here. And today is really all about, so I don't know if you've noticed, but we've begun a series, and the series is called The Arc of Democracy. And really, it's because democracy is an arc. It's an arc that really carries its way, and it's always seeking to go forward, although we do have to make sure it continues progressing for the benefit and equity and parity of all. So in this series, this is our first episode with our wonderful Gina Clayton Tarvin. Before we introduce her, and she's going to focus in talking with us on education in democracy. And so right now, as you all know, the last discussion we had a few discussions ago, we talked about Roe v. Wade being overturned. We talked about the privacy of our citizens in America being threatened by the current Supreme Court in its supermajority, and how it's really beginning to invalidate itself by really putting forward all of these statements and all of these orders and laying them down in the country that are really affecting everyone and are resulting in less rights for our future generation. We also see right now the immense amount of propaganda that is being perpetuated in the media. It is very, very strong what is being pushed out there. Even the lies, the very blatant lies that are being said about the state of our country. Our president, Joe Biden, I just came from the DNC in Washington, D.C. and Maryland, and I must tell you all, it was quite fabulous. I had the wonderful blessing and gift to meet and connect with our vice president, Madam Kamala Harris, as well as her husband, Doug Emhoff. And we really, the chair of the Democratic Party, Jamie Harrison, they are really trying hard to send this message, and I'm going to send it to you all. It is the message of hope. The message of hope that we must hold on to, and how this November in the midterms, this is not just November, it is Rovember, because it is going to be a referendum on taking the rights away from women that this Supreme Court has done, and we are going to have to come out strong. Men and women, we need all of each other. And we are really trying to get out the vote to make sure that we come out successful. So we have to talk about hope, belief, not letting people become apathetic about what they see, not allowing our young ones to feel that their voices are not there. And currently, the Democratic Party of the entire country is working very hard to reach out to the young people between the age categories of 18 and 25. They are utilizing social media aggressively, understanding that is the vanguard to make sure that we get the media out on the positive and true messages to combat the negativity about what we're doing. So we really want to share a bit of that with you to get you excited, to get you galvanized, to get you motivated, to know that what we are doing here with Truth and Democracy, we are not alone. We have so many in this country working so hard and so excited to be working side by side with them. So let's get to our guest today, Miss Gina Clayton Tarvin. Gina Clayton Tarvin is in Huntington, besides being my awesome friend and an absolute queen, she is in Huntington Beach, California with me. She is the Ocean View president of the Ocean View Unified School District. And she has been here in Huntington Beach serving for well over 20 years, correct, Gina? And she is currently running for the Huntington Beach City Council. And so certainly we want her to get on there. She is doing all the groundwork. You see her all over social media. She's connected and networked well. She has a long history, my friends, in politics, her family, herself. She knows what it's about, but more importantly, she is the voice that is out here, especially in Huntington Beach itself, willing to speak for the communities who are voiceless, willing to stand up and give them a shoulders to stand on and a place at the table. So I really, with all my heart and soul, with a lot of excitement in my bones, I introduce to you Gina Clayton Tarvin of Huntington Beach, California. Gina, you have the floor.
Oh my gosh, what a wonderful intro. Dom, thank you so much. Richard, thank you. It is so wonderful to be here with all of you today. Yes, I'm broadcasting from sunny Huntington Beach. It's cooled down a little bit this week in California, so we are getting a little bit of relief It has been a real scorcher for the last couple weeks here, but I'm so happy to be here with all of you today. Dom did mention that I am the president of the Ocean View School District, and I have been on the board for over a decade. And of that decade of service, the 10 years I've been on the board, I have been blessed and honored to be the president of the board. And being the president of the board, being the president of the board has really gotten me to understand what it means to work in a democratic small society, a small debate society. Our governance board is of 5 people. We're all elected by the people in a general election. And I'm typically on the presidential ballot. So I'm not up till 2024 for re-election, but 3 of my colleagues are up this time in the midterms. So 3 of us are on the ballot in the midterms and 2 are on the ballot at the presidential election. And what's so extraordinary about the Ocean View School District Board is it's a majority of Republicans and me, a Democrat, and they have elected me as their president 5 times. And I think what that does is it speaks to the fact that we work well together, because when your common interest is making sure that your students are learning and your students are safe and your staff has everything that they need to be able to give the education they need to the children, when your objectives are clear and you know that you're there based on the will of the people, you look past party. Now, as you know, most elections at the local level in California anyway, school board, water board, city councils, county supervisors, judges, of course, all of these are nonpartisan seats. But as you're well aware, things can get political even at the local level. Like Tip O'Neill once said, all politics are local. And that includes things at the federal level and the state level, and of course, right here at the local level. So I'm honored to have received the support of my Republican colleagues. They believe in me, trust in me, even though we have political differences and they know the things that I push for, you know, in my own personal time with my First Amendment rights. But we coalesce around the idea that we're here for the children. We're here for the people, our youngest residents in Huntington Beach. One of the other things that Dom had mentioned is, and I think she did, talked about the 25 years or over 20 years service that I have. And so what I am first and foremost is I'm a classroom teacher. So I happen to be a 6th grade teacher also, besides being the school board president here in Orange County. I am a 6th grade teacher in LA County, in Southeast Los Angeles County, in a place called Cerritos. It's just north of Long Beach, if you're familiar with the city of Long Beach. And so I have been working as a teacher. I'm in my 26th year, and I have taught multiple things. And so this year, and for the past 16 years, I've been teaching in the GATE program. In California, GATE stands for Gifted and Talented Education. So I'm a GATE teacher. And I teach all varying capacities. So kids that may be in special education, kids that are in English language learner program and GATE program. And they're in a heterogeneous group in my classroom. So we have varying abilities, not just with academics, but with language as well. Most of my students are first-generation Americans, or they are immigrants themselves. And so what's fascinating about that is I like to say, boys and girls, you're like the United Nations here in my classroom. And I'm so proud to have them with me. I have students that are from all over the world, students from China, students from Taiwan, Korea, Cambodia, Vietnam, from India, from Mexico, from Africa. I have 4 different nations in Africa represented in my classroom this year. Kids from South America, kids that have Native American or First Peoples background as well. And so it is fascinating to have that kind of mix of folks, the patchwork that makes up America. And the one thing that they all have in common is that they're proud to be Americans. And one of the things that we do every single morning in my classroom is we all rise to say the Pledge of Allegiance. And it's something that I've been working on with the children for 25 years. I've never missed a day of having the kids recite the pledge, because I want them to know that it's a common feeling for the love of our country, while also loving and respecting the nations that we all come from, that we hail from, or that our parents or our grandparents are from. And one of the most interesting things actually about learning civics in California is that civics is intertwined into every single subject, believe it or not. So we have core subjects that are integrated across the curriculum. And specifically in social studies, children learn civics starting in kindergarten when they learn about their community. So they start out learning about what is a neighborhood, and they learn about what then is a city, and then what is a county, and what is the state, and what is the nation, of course. And at kinder level, we really focus on the community and who's in our community, who serves our community, the police and the fire department and our mail carriers and our teachers and our nurses and doctors and our advocates and all the folks that work in the grocery store, everybody in our community. And as we progress up through the grades, it becomes progressively more complex. And so by the time a student is in third grade, they study local city government. So I know this not only because I'm a California teacher, but because I have two children in California public schools. I have a son who's now in fifth grade, and I have a son who's a senior in high school at Huntington Beach High School. And so my little son, Max, when he was in third grade, and my older son, Tony, when he was in third grade, learned about our local city government at the Huntington Beach Civic Center right at City Hall. And they got to learn about who is the mayor, what's the city council, what are the laws for the city? They're called ordinances. And so the children got to take a field trip to the city hall. They also got to take a field trip to the fire station. And they got to learn about what are some of the city services like the police and fire. And they got to learn about city pioneers. So they learned about all the city leaders in Huntington Beach, and even pre-Huntington Beach in the Ocean View School District, because in fact, we were the only governmental agency in Huntington Beach from 1874. There was no Huntington Beach, but there was an Ocean View School District, and we ran a one-room schoolhouse right on the corner of Beach Boulevard and Smeltzer Avenue, which is now called Edinger. And those were the names of actually mayors from Santa Ana. If you've ever heard of the city of Santa Ana, you might be familiar with some of these old-time leaders, Mr. Warner, Mr. Wintersburg, Mr. Smeltzer, and of course, you know, the famous Highway 39, Beach Boulevard. So we ran a school on the corner of Beach and Smeltzer from 1874 all the way to 1910. And then we moved the school down the street to Beach and Warner and opened up that school in 1911 after the kids came back from Christmas vacation. And that school functioned all the way till 1983. And in that time, the school district, the superintendent, and school board purchased up to 25 school sites. And we still have all of those school sites in our portfolio. We have never sold any of them. And even the ones that have been closed for students are now leased out. So we don't sell any property in Huntington Beach. We keep it all in the taxpayers' portfolio. And I'm very proud of that, because once you sell public land, there's no getting it back. So getting back to what you learn in school and civics in our social studies classes in California, in fourth grade, you learn about the government of California. So you learn about your governor, and you learn about the assembly and the Senate and the judicial branch. So you start learning about the tripartite government, the three branches of government, which is your executive branch, your legislative branch, and your judicial branch. Also in the fourth grade, you learn about the missionization of Native peoples here in California. And I'm proud to say that in California, we've updated our curriculum to make sure that students know the truth about missionized people here in California and the great suffering that they felt at the hands of the colonizers, the Spanish at the time. And also about how people were forced through integration into California and into speaking Spanish. You probably have heard about the missionization of California peoples. So after that, we then in fifth grade go to American history. And it starts out with the 13 colonies and moves into, talking about the revolution, how the American patriots threw out those redcoats and how we become a young nation. And then we go through to the various stages of industrialization, the Civil War, of course, slavery, Reconstruction, and then they get to the 6th grade, which is where I come in. So I'm a 6th grade teacher, and in California, 6th and 7th grade are ancient civilizations studies. However, even though we may be on the other side of the world learning about Mesopotamia and the great civilizations of Africa, especially those of Egypt and in Central Africa, we also visit places like what is now Israel. And we talk about the Hebrews and how they're the progenitors of modern and ancient or concepts of democracy in ancient times that lead to modern democracy, and how the Greeks then pick up with the concept of representative democracy, then coming out of democracy of the few, actually coming out of democracy of the many, where you could go as a regular citizen and participate in direct democracy. And what that meant at the time was that only male, non-slave landowners could vote. And you would go to the top, to the Acropolis, and you would participate at the Agora, and you would actually propose votes. You would propose legislation, and then there would be a council that would vote. Now, it was called direct democracy, but I would say as a woman, it was anything but, because women were cut out of that. Anyone that wasn't a citizen, and to be a citizen, both your parents had to be citizens and you had to be a free person. So many people in society were actually cut out of the democratic process in ancient Greece. Although, of course, we thank those who came before us who thought of these concepts. They were very limited in democracy or in democratic ideals. We then move on to the ancient Romans, and we talk first about the Republic, not the empire, because the empire was anything but democratic. But before the empire, there was the Republic, and the Republic was founded on the concept that I mentioned earlier, the tripartite government, where you had 2 consuls that functioned as the executive branch, where you had a legislative branch that existed of the patricians and the plebeians. And then you had a system that was judicial in nature with the judges. And this government functioned for some time and was more democratic, let's say, than what we had seen in ancient Greece. And our modern United States Republic, our representative republic, was born out of the Roman Republic. And so there are a lot of similarities. One of the things that I wanted to do was share with you what an actual lesson looks like in a California school in a 6th grade class. And I have brought up a couple things on from my textbook. So all teachers in California teach not only from a textbook, but from an online textbook. And I'd like to share that with you just so you can kind of see what kids are actually learning today. Because I get a lot of questions actually when I'm running for city council now. And yesterday I was at a meet and greet, and one of the great questions I got from one of the participants was, do you teach civics in school anymore? And I said, of course we do. And then I thought, maybe I shouldn't answer it that way, because really residents are truly unaware. And I want to tell you, yes, in California anyway, we pride ourselves on teaching physics at every single grade level, and it's intertwined in social studies, in language arts, in math, and even in science. And so I would say that I'm very proud of that. And when I answered this constituent, I explained that in California, I think we are very progressive in doing that, and we are carrying on the great legacy of teaching civics in the United States of America and showing children where it comes from, not just saying stand up and recite the pledge because you have to, but why it's important to have pride in your nation and have pride in the fact that this country does afford us the right to vote, the right to free speech, and other rights in our country. And so before I get to showing you the lesson, I do want to give you just a tiny bit more background on myself and why I always talk about why I'm proud to be an American. I am the granddaughter of immigrants. All of my family are primarily from Southern Europe. My mother is Sicilian, she's Italian, and she's also half Hungarian Jew, and her relatives had escaped, the Holocaust. And so I know what it feels like having generational trauma from those experiences from my family members. My father is also half Italian, and his grandmother was from Rome. Yes, from the real city of Rome, Italy. And the talk in Italian families about how we are so proud of being the progenitors and the creators of what becomes modern democracy. It's I know you probably know Italians are very proud people, but we're also really proud of the fact that we had something to do with what democracy is like in the world today. My father is also, he's a quarter Irish. So yes, I'm Irish as well. That's why my last name is Clayton. And my father's grandmother was from Holland. So I'm a little Dutch as well. So I'm kind of like the European Union somehow with a little African blood as well. My mother being African, being a Sicilian individual. And so we're really proud people. We feel like we're people of the world. And I happen to be an Italian citizen as well. And I know in Italy, things are run differently. It's a parliamentary system, but they believe in democracy as well. But nothing can beat American democracy, especially when it comes to freedom of speech. And I teach that to my students every day. You have the right to criticize. You have the right to have your opinion. We may not agree, but we're still Americans, and that's what's important. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to pull up what the beginning of a lesson looks like in a California social studies book, a lesson on Roman democracy. So let me pull up my screen and hopefully this works. Let me share screen. And
this is exciting for us. What an interesting treat, everyone, for Gina, an educator, again, a president of our one of our school districts here in Huntington, to be sharing this with us. So while she's pulling that up, really, if you want to make sure you're taking a look at what she's going to share with us, this is the real lessons. So, that we are sharing with our children. So Gina, wonderful.
Thank you. I see that I'm trying to share my screen. And I think this might be it. Let me share. Can you see Government of the Republic?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, so I won't take you through all the steps because teachers have like 5 steps just to get to the screen, but I've gotten really quick at it. So I'm on sort of you click in, what you do is you click on a textbook publisher called Savas, you click on social studies, then you click on the chapter you want, you click on the lesson. So I'm now at what is called topic 8 in lesson 2. And lesson 2 is about government of the Republic. And so the Roman Republic was a unique system of government that lasted for 500 years. It led the Roman people from humble origins to conquest of the Mediterranean world. And actually what I can do is, and hopefully this won't echo, but this is what a little like soundbite I might play.
Lesson 2, Government of the Republic. The Roman Republic was a unique system of government that lasted for 500 years. It led the Roman people from humble origins to conquest of the Mediterranean world. Get ready to read. Start up. Examine the painting of Cicero addressing Roman senators. Write one prediction about how the Roman Senate may be similar to the United States Senate, and one prediction of how it was different. Guiding questions. Why and how was power divided among different groups in the Roman Republic? How did the Romans view the concept of citizenship? How did the Roman Republic function? What influence did the Roman Republic have on later governments? Vocabulary: constitution, veto, magistrate, toga, consul. Academic vocabulary: violate, policy.
Okay, so there you have it. That's something that we would share with the students and then come back and kind of discuss what we're going to be doing in the lesson. And then, of course, we would get into textbook pages and we go through vocabulary. And we even have a very short video. I'm going to show that to you. And then I would hope that I could take some questions about what it is that I do on a school board, because I kind of didn't even get into that. I kind of focused on what it's like to be a teacher. But I thought, you know, when's the last time you were in public school? And do you remember what you were taught in 6th grade? So I hope you liked it. Let me just quickly play this video and then I will pass it back to Richard and Dom.
You'd think it would be easy for me to talk about what it took to be a citizen of the Roman Republic. You'd think it would simply be a matter of listing the requirements and responsibilities, as we did when we discussed citizenship in Athens. Here's the problem. The idea of Roman citizenship changed over the centuries. Roman citizenship didn't exist under the rule of the Etruscans who had conquered Rome sometime before 600 BCE. In 509 BCE, after nearly a century of Etruscan rule, leading Roman aristocrats overthrew the king and founded the Republic, which brings us to the first definition of a Roman citizen. All males over the age of 15 who were descended from the original tribes of Rome became citizens. Women, slaves, and foreigners could not be citizens. Citizens distinguished themselves from non-citizens by wearing togas. Most togas were made of white cloth. Women, slaves, and foreigners were not allowed to wear togas. There were two classes of citizens: the patricians and the plebeians. The patricians came from the oldest Roman families and were often wealthy. At first, the patricians controlled the Roman government. Most citizens, however, were plebeians. They came from less important families. Some plebeians were wealthy, most were farmers and artisans. As is often the case throughout history, the common citizens grew tired of the aristocrats having all the power. So the plebeians forced the patricians to let them hold positions in the government. And do you know how they got their way? They went on strike. It was during a war, and the plebeians just left Rome and sat down on a nearby hill. Rome needed the plebeians to help fight. They couldn't win a battle without them. Finally, the patricians had to give in. As I said earlier, the idea of Roman citizenship changed over the centuries. First, enslaved males who were granted freedom were allowed to become full citizens. Later, around 90 BCE, Rome gave the rights of citizenship to non-Roman allies of the Republic. And finally, around 212 CE, all free people of the Roman Empire could become citizens. So that sums up how the requirements for citizenship changed in the Roman Empire. Now, can you list the responsibilities of the Roman citizen?
So, I mean, that's what we do on a daily basis in my classroom for social studies. As you can see, I have help from that teacher who gives us a little taste of the lesson of what they're going to learn and gives them some kind of visuals. And then I get into and show them visuals and I expand upon what she says. So each of the lessons is led by a teacher. She and another teacher give us those little tastes of what goes on in the lesson, and it's really great. It is amazing. I see that, Dom. It is amazing because it really, I think, ties into what kids like to see, which are visuals. Kids love videos. Kids like to hear from others. And so it really keeps the lesson diversified. And yeah, it's a great textbook. It's a great adoption, and I'm really proud of the state of California for doing the best to bring civics to every single student at every single grade level in our state.
Oh my goodness, what a treat. I mean, could we here in our group have really received, Gina, a greater thing than to actually see the history lessons being taught to our students today? I mean, this is truly right. Yeah, can everyone give an emoji or even a hand motion for Gina? And you did great, Gina. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for your love and kindness. Gina, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Dixie. Thank you, B. Ellis. It is so wonderful. I know, Richard, it is so wonderful to see that. And I moved to say this, and then I want to open it up because this is about democracy and education. And we have an educator, a teacher, and someone who's on the school board, the president, and ready for city council. So needless to say, Gina Clayton Tarvin is the person we want to talk to about education. And she's in the good work, and we are so blessed to have her with us. So I must say this, if you see in the media, the propaganda that they try to put out there about what we're teaching our children, saying, oh, we're teaching them all these false theories and things that are wrong and inaccurate, or, we're telling them we're rewriting history, right? All of these things. You just saw just a portion of what Gina said. Honestly, Gina, it got me excited. I was kind of like, oh, I miss history, because it was exciting. It was honest. It was the truth. It was the facts. This is what our children are learning. And for those of us who have been out of school for a very long time, we can be confident right now from what she just showed us, and that's in Huntington Beach, California. Our students are learning the right things. They're learning the things so that they can grow in knowledge of history and make choices for the future. So Gina, thank you so much for being here. I want to open it up to everyone, because this is your opportunity to speak to Gina, who will be on city council in Huntington Beach. Okay, this year it is happening. And then she'll be mayor, and then you'll be like, I remember Gina. So everyone, does anyone have any questions or thoughts to share with Gina? Rich, before let's go ahead and start with Richard, and then we can kind of kick it off.
Okay, so basically in the reactions menu is a thing to raise your hand. So if you have a question, go to the reactions menu, raise your hand. That's the best way. I will be looking in the chat. If you put it in the chat, Dom and I will try and get to it. But we'd love to see your faces as well, because this is being aired on YouTube and will be on YouTube. And of course, we'll push a audio podcast, and I will send that to everyone. Sorry, our last meeting, I forgot to record it. So thank God for Dom's help and for everybody's help. I do have a question of my own that I want to ask, and that is that we've been being told, and it contradicts my experience, that things like the Civil War, slavery, the civil rights movement are not being taught in our schools. And I remember I knew very young who Abraham Lincoln was. Abraham Lincoln motivated me to become a lawyer. I admired him a lot. And I admired him because he brought us through that very difficult time. And so, and in high school, we had the movie Roots, which was back in the 70s, probably late 70s, early 80s. And we talked about it in school. And we're talking about time that is on your watch, where you were teaching, and we're being told that you guys dropped the ball on teaching Civil War, slavery, and the civil rights movement. And I don't believe that. But I want to ask you, have schools dropped the ball and not taught our school children about American history, specifically slavery, the civil rights, and the civil rights movement. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. That's a great question. It's similar to the one that I got yesterday when I was in front of some voters here in Huntington Beach. And the answer is actually, we are teaching everything you asked about. We are teaching about slavery. We are teaching about the Civil War. We are teaching about even Reconstruction. I mean, all of these things get discussed. Of course, the civil rights movement. And I have to say to you that actually the civil rights movement is even integrated into 6th grade, where we're learning ancient civilizations, because when we teach the chapter on India, we teach about Gandhi and the legacy of India. And there's a whole entire unit about Martin Luther King Jr. and Gandhi's relationship. And so I really get upset when I feel that residents don't know that we are doing what we are morally obligated to do and professionally obligated to do, which is to teach these concepts. In California, it's state law. Now, I can't speak for what goes on in Texas. I can't speak for what goes on in Alabama or what goes on in New York. But I can tell you what goes on in California is that we follow the law, and that all those things that you asked about are in our textbooks, and they are taught. They're put in our pacing guides, and every teacher is overseen by their principal, and every child takes tests to be able to prove, summative assessments that they have gotten the information. So I do know that we are teaching those things, and specifically American history begins in 5th grade. And I mean a direct laser-like focus on American history, on slavery, the Civil War, Reconstruction, all of those things, Industrial Revolution, that all happens in 5th grade. We then go into 6th and 7th where it's world history, but we all have those concepts. Civil rights movement comes back around in 6th and 7th. And then in 8th grade, it is a very deep dive back into starting with the Civil War, actually, and you go from there. I have taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I have also worked in a 5th grade classroom when one of my colleagues was out for a while. I worked in her classroom for 3 weeks, and I taught the Civil War myself. So I know that it's there. I've done it myself. I teach social studies every single day. Now, what I do want to say is there are some folks out there who are pushing a false agenda and narrative in our nation, and saying that in public schools we're teaching critical race theory. Have you heard this one? It's called CRT. That is not going on in California schools. It is not, okay? And these folks are lying because they're using it for political folly. And why use the children and what we're teaching the children to push your own agenda against the left or the right or whatever it is that folks are talking about? Critical race theory is taught at college level. It's much too complex for K to 12. It's not happening. I saw another question actually here in the chat that I want to, if you want
Yes,
me.
Gina.
Okay.
Go ahead and answer that one, Gina, because so this is Paul's question. We're going to go Paul, and then we have another one from Dan, and then Sarah, we're going to take your hand too. So great. This is a really great, robust discussion. Everyone enjoy this, really get what you came to get out of it, because we're learning a lot from Gina. So Gina, the question from Paul is, how do you deal with the folks who are going against traditions in education when you teach civics? How do you deal with revisionist history?
Well, teachers are not having it. We're not dealing with revisionist history. What happened is what happened. Okay. And one thing, one thing about America, and I mentioned it when I talked about what gets taught in the 4th grade when we discuss what occurred with the missionizations of First Peoples, of Native peoples in California. I think at one time in California, missionization was romanticized. Oh, isn't it wonderful? These natives, these folks who are primitive, or whatever people used to call them in the past, needed to find God. And in Christianity, they were colonized. And the reality of it is that people were treated extremely poorly. People that were missionized from their pueblas and from their ranchos were moved into these almost slave-like indentured servitude situations in missions and treated very poorly by the Spanish colonists. And so if we want to have a real society built upon democratic ideals, we must tell the truth. And the truth is that people of color have been abused, neglected, and actively beaten down in this nation over the years.
Wonderful.
Starting with slavery of African people and moving all the way through. And in California, we tell the truth and we don't allow for revisionism. It doesn't happen here in California. I'm very proud to be a teacher in this state. So thank you so much for that question.
Yes, thank you, Gina, for answering that and for answering that so strongly. Yes, Paul, that's Paul clapping for you, Gina.
Oh,
because
thank you, Paul. Paul, that was amazing. That was an amazing question. And it's one of those ones that I don't get often asked because, you know, there are some folks who like revisionist history, don't they? Because it serves their political purpose. But I think that if we just want to live in the truth, then we can deal with who we are as Americans, and we can only get better. We can move on from there.
That's right, Gina, and 100%. Let's go along now, Gina. Dan's question, and Dan and Paul, if you want to say anything, just raise your hand there too. Dan, do you want to speak your question, or would you like for me to read it?
Go ahead
and
I could
speak
ask
it,
it.
Dan.
Yeah. I just I'm curious. You said that civics is taught in math and science classes. I'm wondering how that's done.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Dan, for that question. Let me give you an example of a math lesson that I give and how it relates to civics. So we have these critical thinking questions in math. So obviously we have, we have arithmetic, we have algorithms, 2 + 2 is 4 and so on. The quadratic equation, we do all of that. We do all the algorithmic or algebraic things. But then there are these critical thinking questions that come typically at the end of the independent practice for the students. And what happens is that these questions, they're called, word problems. Do you remember those from when you were in school? Word problems, right? And so word problems now are based around real life things. So for instance, I had a question as one of the word problems for the kids the other day, and it said, Miss Sanchez is running for mayor. And she has, X amount of votes that she can win by. And she needs to get so many votes to be able to win. And what is the percentage that she needs to win out of the total voters to be able to succeed and to win and to prevail in this election? And it obviously was a little more complex than that. But my point is that it got me to talking to the kids about what's a city council election, and that's right in a math lesson. And so, you should see these authors of these textbooks. They are phenomenal, and a lot of them are college professors, but there are classroom teachers like me too, sit on textbook committees and give input on what we want to be in our textbooks. And so, yeah, that's one example of how we get civics right into a math lesson. And in science, wow, it's really intertwined, especially when we're talking about things like global climate change or in sea rise rising and things like that. And we talk about how do we change policy in our nation to be able to stop the degradation of our planet, of our environment? And how does that work? Because an average, sixth grader is not going to understand what is it that tells citizens to, not throw plastic into the ocean, or how are we going to get power plants from stopping to belch out this heat and this smoke into the environment? And, kids will raise their hand and go, but Miss Clayton, I don't understand. So does somebody call them and tell them they can't do it? Does the mayor do that? Or is it our governor? Or does the president do that? Kids really ask these questions. And then these questions are so phenomenal because they're coming from a place of innocence. And when you come from a place of innocence, you really want to know the answer. And so I answer them truthfully. It's a complex process, children. It comes from, your state assembly members, your state senators, and of course, then your governor has to sign it into law. And at the federal level, it's for your House of Representatives and your senators. And then I go, remember when we talked about in social studies, remember the Senate in Rome? Well, we have our very own Senate right here in the United States of America. And then I'll say, how many of you know how many senators we have? And somebody invariably goes, 100. And I say, why do we have 100? Because there's 2 from each state and we have 50 states. There's always an answer in the room. Even with young students, there's an answer in the room. And what that shows you is that in prior classrooms, or most importantly, in their homes, their parents are teaching civics too. And that's the home to school connection. And that's really what makes me excited when I think about how I partner with the parents to teach our young students.
Beautiful, Jean, well stated. And I can't, I know you, I just them getting a chance to hear you, it cannot be overstated. I think we're so proud to have you as an educator. You are with it, my friend. You are well informed and you are just really educating our children well. I'm going to go to Sarah McDonald. Sarah, you had your hand up there. Please do ask questions of Gina.
Gina, did you guys talk about the admission day on Friday?
Admission day, I guess we didn't, but it
was the 9th.
Yes, you're right. And I didn't, but that's not saying that the other teachers didn't. Maybe they did. And I will put that down in my notes to be able to think about that for next year. Sarah, you just taught me that I need to get on the ball.
And because, one of the things we've got to remember is that our state constitution for the first few years was in Spanish and in English.
That's right. It was. And, that fun fact is taught in the 4th grade in California, but you're right. And I'm going to ask my 4th grade teacher colleagues at school tomorrow if they talked about it. I bet they did. So Sarah, excuse me. I did.
Do we still do the mission reports?
Yes,
in the fourth grade, because I did that too. I'm a native Californian.
Yes, I am too. I was born in Oceanside, California, in San Diego County, and yes, we do those mission reports. And what's important about those mission reports now is that everybody's perspective is written into the mission reports or the missions that the kids build. Both my sons have built missions, by the way. My son, my older son, Tony, built I think it was the Santa Buenaventura mission. And so yes, the mission project is still done, but it's done through a different lens now, not just of the victors, as someone else had said in their question here, not just of the Spaniards, but of the native peoples themselves too.
Yeah, we got to use civics and through a DEI and a lens.
Yes.
Thank you.
I agree.
It's great to be here.
Sarah. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. And we're going to take one more question. It's going to be from Mario. I'm going to read his question. Unless Mario, you want to say it, I'll read it. And I just want to say that right there, it's Sarah sharing that with Gina saying, you know what? I'm going to write that down. That's what we're here for. So Sarah, right there, we are engaging in democracy and education. This is, yes, girl, this is an educator, a president of a school board is going to take what you said. So it's so important, you guys, make sure we're going to talk a little bit more about the next episode. But I want you guys all to make sure you're sharing this, what's going on with the Arc of Democracy, with Truth of Democracy, because Truth of Democracy is being revamped as a podcast show. And we're really, really going to have some amazing people on here. So great, Sarah. Thank you for that. I'm going to read this last question to you, Gina, and if we can make it brief, from Mario. And the question is, what is the story or truth of certain books being removed from some school reading list deemed too uncomfortable or challenging? Books, they have racial slurs, like, Uncle Tom's Cabin, I'm thinking about stuff like that, clashes or address class warfare, Animal Farm, To Kill a Mockingbird, Huckleberry Finn. So he wants to know, what's the story behind that?
Well, that's a great question. And, that comes up, here and there and everywhere around our nation. So now I'm going to put on my school board president hat. in the school district that I oversee, the Ocean View School District, which covers not only Huntington Beach, but Fountain Valley, Midway City, and Westminster. Those are 4 communities in Orange County, California. We have a very diverse population of folks in this area. And one of the things we pride ourselves on in the Ocean View School District is not banning books. Even though school boards are allowed to actually oversee which books go into a library, we believe that our staff are the experts, that our librarians, our principals, our teachers, our district staff are the experts, and they know which books are allowed under California law. And if California, the state of California Board of Education believes that they are allowed and they shall be taught, they shall be taught. We do not allow for book banning in the Ocean View School District. And I would say in California, it's pretty rare to hear of that, but I know it goes on in other states, and I think it's not right. Now, let me just say this. There are books that are only appropriate at certain grade levels. So, you know, kids that in high school are going to be reading different books than kids in 6th grade and versus kids they're in 3rd grade. So obviously we want to be, you know, cognizant of that and careful, you know, to make sure that our children are reading only grade level appropriate information based on the state of California's list.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think that was very clear, and it makes a lot of sense. Want a 3rd grader reading something that should be for a 16-year-old. So perfect, right?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Absolutely. So before we close out, Richard, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I actually had a question I wanted to ask, and
Sure.
then we'll show that video. Is that what you want me to do at the end?
Yeah, I'll segue to that after your thought. Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking about the last book. So I wanted to say that, you know, when St. Paul wrote, no male, female, no slave or free, what he was doing was inviting the Roman citizens the Roman people who could not be citizens to become citizens of the kingdom of God, that they were welcome in that kingdom. And my question is that with what seems to be being taught is not really necessarily history, but it's these anti-racist trainings that are being disseminated apparently into the school districts. You know, there's things like intersectionality, and that may be derivative of critical race theory. So are these programs being imposed upon our school children?
No, 100% they're not. In California, there is no such thing as critical race theory in K-12 schools. It simply does not exist.
But I'm talking about the anti-racist programs, because people are getting letters to their parents, are getting letters telling them to use proper pronouns.
We
And
have none of
things
that,
like
Paul.
that.
That's not true, Paul. That's not true.
Rich.
Sorry, Rich. I apologize, Paul, for saying Rich. That's simply not true. That's
Okay.
simply false. And I'll tell you that we do not tell anybody which pronouns to use for themselves. It's up to each individual to decide who they are, which pronouns they want to use. That's not something that the teachers have anything to do with or that we force. That is absolutely incorrect. We also don't have any anti-racist curriculum. That does not exist. Now, do I in my classroom talk about racism? Yes, because it's intertwined into literature. I teach a novel called The K. It's from World War II times about a young boy who gets stranded on an island with a Caribbean man. Has anyone ever read The K? It's about racism. It's about Dr. King's dream. You know, for those of us who know the Dr. King's dream, it's literally about the fact that in our nation, there has been a long history of racism. We can't lie about it. It's the truth. And it's intertwined into curriculum, but it's not teaching anti-racism. I don't tell the children, you can't be racist. This isn't, but why would I say the opposite? You can be a racist? What in the world are we talking about here?
Yeah, but I've been seeing and hearing about, and my brother got a letter which caused him to take his children out of public school, which talked about pronouns. Maybe it's only at the high school level that they're doing this, but and I've been hearing that in the news as well, that teachers are getting fired for not using the proper pronouns and things like that. That's coming out in the news as well. And so
no, nobody listen, here's the thing, Rich, and I'm going to tell you this as a 25-year union representative. I'm also a leader in my labor union, the American Federation of Teachers 2317. No one can be fired for using the wrong word. Okay, so that's not true. However, in California, if students feel like they want to be called they, them, that's their right to be called that. They can be called that. I don't know that anyone's ever sent home a letter about it, but that is actually, you know, something that children have the right to feel how they feel as a human being. Every individual has a right to be respected. But I've never in my life heard of anybody being fired because they didn't use somebody's pronoun. We don't send home letters at all in the Ocean View School District about anything like this. There is no law that says we have to do that. So I don't know where your brother's kids went to school, but I mean, I've never heard of such a thing. It doesn't exist in California law.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you, Rich. Thank you.
And thank you, Rich, for asking that question. Thank you, Gina, for answering it. Thank you for that little robust back and forth there. You know, that's important. You know, when we're seeing or hearing in Richard's case, hey, is my kid being told? Someone even asked in the chat, Gina, are our kids being asked to identify themselves as a pronoun?
No, absolutely not. That we cannot do. You cannot ask children what you want. What's your pronoun? That is not true. We do not do that. So I don't know where that's coming from, but I can tell you that's definitely not occurring in the Ocean View School District or where I work in LA County in the ABC Unified School District. So I work in LA County as a teacher, and then I'm the president of Ocean View. That's not happening in either county that I know of that I'm working in. So no.
And I will say this, we are really in a blessed position to have you here because you literally work in 2 different counties. You live in Huntington Beach. So you pretty much are like, that's not the case. I've been doing this for a long time. So I think you guys, we can definitely take this educator's commitment in her word for that. And Gina, thank you for that so much. I think that really has been impactful. Dixie, did you have a question? I just don't want to miss you before we close out, guys. Dixie, you want a few words?
Well, you addressed it about young children. Are they being asked to choose their pronoun? Because that my granddaughters were in the Whittier area.
In the Whittier School District.
Uh-huh.
And how old are your granddaughters?
They're in high school now.
I mean, when you think this occurred, do you know when this occurred? Because we're not allowed to do that. So I'm not sure where that's coming from. Do you know if the children themselves asked to be? If a child asks from their own will, if they ask to be called they or she, he, whatever it is, then the teacher has to honor that. Okay. But if we don't ask the children to identify themselves, we're not supposed to be doing that. Teachers don't do that.
And I will say this to Gina's point, you know, if you guys hear that from your children or grandchildren, please, I would say contact the school, and I would say, hey, my child is saying this particular teacher, because to Gina's point, I'm special needs, but I know that they're not supposed to ask questions like that. I do know that, and they shouldn't. And if they do, that's some sort of rogue, you know what I mean, teacher going on their own way, but that shouldn't be the case, right, Gina?
Yeah, exactly. So here's the thing. And I see something in the chat about critical theory and so we don't teach critical theory or critical race theory at all in California in K-12 schools. That is not true. You know what? I'm going to be real strong about this now, because I don't like misinformation. I know though that some people believe that it's occurring, but no, I am telling the truth. Someone says that it's all over California, you're not telling the truth. I don't know who's writing that, but in fact, it is not. If you want to, right now, you can go to the California Department of Education's website. You can look up the social studies curriculum at each grade level, and you will see that it does not exist. We are not allowed to teach CRT in California schools K-12. That is not true. Critical thinking is not critical race theory. Maybe someone's getting confused, but we do not have that in California. Period. End of story. I'm sorry. I'm going to strongly disagree with you and respectfully, but I will not allow misinformation to be spread. I'm not going to allow it.
And Gina, thank you for that. The person in the chat, the person's name is Karen. I will say thank you for expressing your freedom of speech and your right to your thoughts and feelings. But Gina, thank you for clarifying that as one of our educators very much. So before we close out, everyone, and Gina, if you could stay on, we just have a couple minutes we want to share with you of our Vice President just recently talking to the National Educators Association. So Richard, go ahead and we're going to share screen and let's listen to our Vice President for a few minutes during this time. Thank you. And we're going to go to 2024. 2024. Richard, are we able to scrub it to the right, go towards the end?
Oh, what a sight my eyes behold.
Richard, we can't hear you. What happened? Maybe
Did you want me to stop it?
Yeah. If you want to stop it, and then can you scrub it to the very end at 24 minutes?
Oh, at 24 minutes. I see. Okay.
Yeah, 24:40, and then push play after it's there.
Okay, 24:40.
All the way at the end.
24:40.
There we go.
Okay.
An extraordinary leader in extraordinary times. Truly. I run into her in different places around the country, and she is always speaking about you and the importance of this organization and the importance of this organization to the future of our country. Thank you, Becky, for that introduction. Thank you. So before I start with my address to you,
I don't think, Richard, I don't think it's catching that you want to play at the end. So just go ahead and stop it right now. It's okay. I will pontificate to our group the kind of gist of what she was saying. It's okay. We'll get that fixed next time. The reason why we wanted to have you listen to the last few words of what Kamala was saying there is that she just spoke about how, just like every other aspect of America's history, when it comes to equality, when it comes to equity, when it comes to immigration, when it comes to finding harmony for all of our American citizens and also people who are here, it's always a fight. And she brings that up because it's also education is included, making sure that our students are sure to be achieving and receiving the best education possible, making sure that they have the best educators who are diligent and very caring about the distribution of the information and honest. It is a constant move forward and fight to ensure that it stabilizes our education system, remains stabilized, robust, true, and continuing to uplift and properly educate our youth. She really delivered that in such a wonderful way. And I wanted you guys to feel the essence of the power of education. Education got me out of poverty. Education got me out of a difficult state in my life and lifted me to better places. People like Gina mean the world to me because she loves education and it's in her heart and it's every fiber of who she is. So our democracy is built on many different principles: education, freedom of speech, and so many other rights. But education is one of the top. And as long as our education is robust and strong, so our democracy will be as well. So that is the first episode conclusion of the Arc of Democracy. Our next episode will be coming up here in about 3 weeks or so. We will have the former woman who ran for Congress, Laura Oatman, on. She is amazing. She currently resides in the Newport Beach area, and she is going to speak to us on the Arc of Democracy, the Supreme Court, and democracy today. So that's going to be a really exciting discussion as well. I want to go ahead and let everyone know, don't forget, midterms are coming up November 8th. We have approximately 58 days. So please, let's make sure that we are being activated and we are talking to our neighbors about voting. And here's the key, especially if you are voting in line with liberal principles, up and down the ballot. We do not stop at just the first top. We go all the way down. Okay. I also want to let you all know, and I said it before, and I let Richard jump in where he'd like to, the wonderful Richard Presida, that the Truth of Democracy, we are going through a big revolution. We are really opening our doors to so many of our leaders to come in. I have some awesome surprises for you that we will be having some amazing leaders from DC speaking for us in the coming months. So I want to let you all know that I thank you so much. I'm honored to be here with you guys and moderating with Richard. And this has been a wonderful discussion. Again, Gina is running for Huntington Beach City Council for this November election. Be sure to be engaged, everyone. Be activated. And Gina, if you can leave everyone with one final thought before we all log off and enjoy our beautiful Sundays of what action they can take to take the information that they learned today and continue to be active in their democracy, what can they do?
Well, that is something that I talk to my students' parents about every time they come to a parent-teacher conference. So imagine you're at your parent-teacher conference with your child. Think back to when you went with your kids to school. And one of the things that I encourage the parents to do is go home and talk to their children about where they come from and why they're in America today. Talk to how you got to this nation, whether it was 10 years ago, 1 year ago, 100 years ago, or your relatives have been here since, the Pilgrims were here. Or if you're a person of First Nations or Native blood, whatever that story is for you, talk to your children and your grandchildren about why you're here and why you're proud to be an American, because in that discussion will be civics. Civics will come out in that discussion. And that's what I encourage you to do. Talk to somebody that's younger than you that needs to know why and how you got here, and to know your story and your family story and why you're proud to be an American.
Beautiful, Gina. That couldn't have ended even better. Everyone, yes, give Gina a round of applause. That. And Richard, you did fantastic. Thank you for working with us hard on the back end, making sure everything ran smoothly. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. The next episode will be absolutely marvelous. And until then, continue to work along the arc of democracy, continue to seek truth in democracy, and continue to be active participants within this beautiful America. Thank you, everyone, and I wish you well. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dom. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard.
Thank you.
Thanks.